page 12 of the PDF. Oh yeah, so here on the left-hand side, you'll see the elevations for the garage. So it's just your basic, two-car garage accessing the alley, and then a door that's accessed from the backyard. And then if you go to page 14, and then this is the lighting that's going to be on the exterior of the home. So that top light is going to go where the front porch will be. And then these little wall sconces will be, two will be on either side of the garage door that faces the alley. And then you'll have one next to the person door that leads from the backyard. And then if you go to page 16. Oh, that might be a double page there. Okay. And then if you go to page 19. Okay, so this is, yeah.
No, it's Stephanie. I was just going to say that I wanted to let everyone know we were live streaming now. I was able to get it working.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so this is just an example of the designs that the developer has. So here's example 1, and then if you scroll through to the next page, more interior shots, and then to the next page. And then this is the other, the example 2 design. So it seems that the home is going to be taken from example 2, and then the garage, it seems like is going to be taken from example 1. But again, the applicant can speak more to that. And so after review, the proposal is largely consistent with the recommendations of the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan. Staff does note that the wall sconces on the garage do emit a small amount of upward light, but it does not extend beyond the roof of the building. The plan recommends new single and two-family residential uses, particularly within the Dodge Park subdistrict, with front porches and parking located to the rear of the main home. And so this proposal does align with these recommendations, and as such, staff recommends approval. And the application as presented includes the following modifications to the East Franklinton District Development Standards, and that's to allow wall sconces as shown with an upward directed light, but the shine is not to extend past the roof of the building, and staff does recommend approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Belkis. Any questions for staff? If not, is there anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Brian?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Brian Noppy with New City Homes.
Okay. Brian, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes, I do.
Okay. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to join the agenda this afternoon. We're very excited to present our new build proposal for South Skidmore Street. Belkis did an excellent job of going over the application material that we put together in preparation for today. The two examples are real life examples, so we've built this plan a handful of times. It blends some traditional aspects as well with a little contemporary flair. It's received very good response from the marketplace, and we were contacted by an existing Franklinton resident to build this house for him.
Could we go to example 1 on the great.
I was just going to add, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Okay. Well, with that, does anybody have any any questions for the applicant?
I have one question related to the board and batten component of it. So I'm looking at that upper left-hand corner photograph of one of the completed. What's the color scheme you're thinking about using here? Do you know yet? Are you gonna have a more of a monochromatic color scheme, trim and body, or any thoughts yet?
Yeah, good question. So the way we lay it out, usually the accent color is on the front board and batten. So on this particular example, there's like a grayish blue on that vertical board and batten, and then the rest of the front, around the front door and above, and then both sides and the rear is horizontal in a different color. And so we select from kind of a standard color base that can be anywhere from white to linen to like an olive into a charcoal. This one had that grayish blue color. We will work with the homeowner, on ultimately deciding like his ideal preference, but that's more or less the general palette. And then the trim that we typically do is the white that you see along the railings and around the windows and whatnot.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else?
I have a question about the treatment of the space around the house. I noticed in the examples there's a board fence that's part of projects. Is there any fencing that you're proposing with this between lots? And what are you doing from a landscaping standpoint?
Yes, thank you for the question. When it comes to fencing, we typically like to install 6-foot shadow box style fence as shown in the photographs currently on the screen. The existing vacant lot had an old fence running across the back as well as fencing on both sides. One is on our existing lot, very old, will be removed. The other is the neighbor's fence, which is going to stay in place. So our proposal is to include a style fence, as you see pictured here, tying in the garage, on either side, and then replacing the dilapidated fence, which currently sits on the lot.
So I'm looking at the site plan, and you said there's a vacant lot next door. Did I miss? I guess I must miss that in the presentation. This shows a house on each side of it.
Yeah, there's a house on either side of it, and so north is actually to the top of the page, and so that property close to the property line, you can kind of see a fence line just inside the property line that runs from the alley basically to the front, and it's intermingled with a bunch of overgrown stuff and in horrible shape. So that'll come out, and we would set a new fence within the property, to replace it going down the property line. And then the existing property to the south does have a privacy fence, and fortunately, we found that to be properly located within their boundary.
Gotcha. So you're just going to be installing a fence on the north side.
Yes, on the north side, back to the garage, tie it into the garage, and then we'll have a little tie-in on the south end of the garage, pretty close to the neighboring property's fence. So I don't see, usually when there's a fence, an existing fence on a neighboring property, we'll play off that. No need to run like kind of fences back to back up against one another. So that's the intention.
So the fence on the north side will tie into the alley side of the garage, the front face of the garage towards the alley.
Yes, that's right. It'll tie into the alley side of that corner of the garage.
And what about the end towards the street, towards Skidmore? Does it tie back into the house at some point?
So yes, it does. Yes. So as you go from, let's say, the alley, and you progress up the lot line towards the home, go past kind of the corner of the house, and then we bring it in usually a couple feet past the rear corner of the house. A lot of times you're dealing with, you know, electric meters or gas meters. We like to keep those outside of the fence so that the utility companies can access those without issue. But yeah, it doesn't progress much past a few feet from the rear of the house to the front.
Okay, so just to get to, so you're just fencing the rear of the property, the backyard.
Correct.
That's what I was trying to get at. What was the scope of the fencing? From a landscaping standpoint, what are you doing with the rest of the lot, or at least are you just planting, or will there be a landscape package or something that goes with it?
Yeah, it'll be a combination. So we'll do full sod on the entire lot, front, sides, and rear. And then we'll do a landscape package similar to what's in the top left photograph. Includes a new tree, starter package for the homeowners going across the front porch with usually like 5 to 7 bushes and flowers. A lot of times there might be, you know, a couple rose bushes thrown in there for some color.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, the house to the north, it also has your company's name on it? Am I mistaken?
Yeah, it's close. It's not our company, but it does have similar wording, City View Homes, but that's an unrelated entity.
Okay, so it does sound, sorry, I didn't read it that close, yeah. So it's not a similar entity. Okay, got it. That's all I had.
Okay, anyone else? Now I'd entertain a motion at this time.
Would we, this is TJ speaking, would we require them to give final paint colors and landscape package, or are we okay approving with the assumption of a earth tone palette like they show in the photos and a similar landscaping package to what is shown in the photo and full sod?
My opinion is we could leave it to staff on approval of color, and if Belkis has serious concerns over a purple or a pink house, then I'm sure she would bring it to us. I mean, from that, so I would motion that it be subject to staff approval of final color.
And Belkis, with respect to residential construction, do we have any control over the color of the house?
No. But given the applicant's description of, you know, what they're going to do with regards to the color and the landscaping, I would be looking for all of that marked on their final drawings that get submitted to me. So if it doesn't match with what they stated on the record today, then, you know, we'd talk about that. So, and if there was anything, you know, concerning, I would bring that back to you all. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
My only other comment, this is still TJ, would be the up down LED wall sconce. I am kind of a stickler for uplighting. If it's something that Belkis does not think would be outside of the bounds, and the other commissioners would be okay to overlook the uplighting on that, I certainly wouldn't too strongly object, but I would ask that on the final light fixture that is submitted to be submitted with only a downlight, not an uplight.
Yeah, that can definitely be a condition for approval. And I will say, in emailing with the applicant did state that if the board had a concern with that up-down light, they could swap it out with just a down-facing wall sconce. So that could be a condition, definitely.
And I'll leave that to the discretion of the board. Did I see correctly in the specs that the maximum wattage on that, on those wall sconces is 5 watts 5 watts LED. Is that what I saw?
If I may interject on that, the lighting is very muted on those wall sconces, and as Belkis hinted, if it must be changed, then we have no problem adjusting that light fixture. But I've seen it out in real life scenario, and it just adds just a little bit of light up and a little bit of light down, but doesn't come anywhere close to the soffit level or even much above the top of the garage door threshold.
Yeah, I was going to say at 5 watts, you're not exactly going to be able to see it from space. But I leave that to the architects in the crowd. I'm just the attorney.
You're not going to mistake it for a Blue Jackets game. I think we'll be okay.
All right, so do I have a motion from anyone?
TJ, you started one. So why don't you unmute yourself and follow through with it?
Yeah, I started talking and I realized I was still muted. Well, I move to approve the application as submitted, and I'm fine with the light fixture as is with the minimal wattage and for Belkis to approve final coloring and landscape.
Okay.
Okay.
Second, I'll support you on that.
Okay, so Bev, to substitute for Belkis, it's going to be staff approval of those items. Record. Any further discussion? If not, Belkis, call the roll, please.
Yep, Dr. Box.
Unmute wasn't working. Approve.
Oh, okay, thank you. Mr. Egner?
Approve.
Mr. Fergus?
Approve.
Mr. Manfred?
Approve.
Mr. Overly?
Approve.
Mr. Szymanski?
Approve.
Mr. Way?
Approve.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Our next, we have a conceptual application. It's number EF 2009002. The address is 500 West Walnut Street. Applicant is Jim Sweeney, and we are conceptually reviewing a 2-unit home addition. Belkis, staff report, please.
Yes, so 500 West Walnut Street is currently a single-family home lot within the Arts and Innovation Subdistrict. The applicant is seeking a conceptual review for an addition of 2 units to the existing single-family home, changing the use from a single-family dwelling unit to a 3-unit dwelling building. The submittal includes a conceptual site plan, elevations, floor plans, and existing site photos. So if we could look at the materials now. Okay, so these are all conceptual, but this is, the site plan here. So on the right-hand side, you have the existing house, and then on the left-hand side, you have this L-shaped, what would be an L-shaped addition, and then you have, we call it like a paper alley, or it's just an unnavigable alley in the rear there. So you see that on the left-hand side. Next page, please.
So this is, just to interject, Belkis, this is an alley that is unused but has not been abandoned, has not been vacated by the city.
Right. Yeah, it hasn't been vacated. It's just it's in really rough shape and overgrown. So
right.
Yes. So then here we have an elevation that's facing east, and here you'll kind of see, I guess, how the proposed addition would tie into the existing home. So there would be one unit on the lower floor there of that gray addition, and then another unit on top. And then you see what Jim has titled like a lower deck on the bottom, and then an upper deck on the second story unit. And then you can kind of see some stairs going up from the lower deck onto, I guess there's like a grade change. So that's kind of leveling out the grade there. Next page, please. Okay, and so this is the second floor unit site plan or floor plan. So you'll see the access from the second story deck there, and then just, you know, it's sort of like a studio sort of setup. Next page. And then this is the first floor unit. So Jim has noted 100% ADA accessible, and then you can kind of see the layout of the unit there. And I think that's all of the pages. So if you could just go to the first page. Oh, okay, yeah. So this is what the site looks like now. So this is the backyard of the existing home. And then you can kind of see what it looks like looking towards that alley as well. All right, and then if you could go to the first page. Oh, could you go to the second page actually? Great, okay, so we'll keep that up. And then after staff analysis and staff review, the proposal is generally consistent with the recommendations of the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan. Staff does note that the proposed unit count exceeds the plan's density recommendation by approximately 1 unit. So staff recommends that the addition be more seamlessly integrated into the rear of the existing structure and a full parking variance, as it appears that the existing alley would need to be improved to be navigable by vehicle. And so in sum, staff supports the use and the density as the proposal contributes to the plan's vision for a dense neighborhood, but recommends that the addition be more seamlessly incorporated into the home and include a high level of design and materials that are compatible with nearby architecture per the plan guidelines. And so as presented, this would include modifications to the East Franklinton District Development Standards, and that would be to reduce the number of required parking from 6 to 0. And this is sort of a typo. Staff is not recommending that this be approved today, but we do support the idea. So we support the use and the density and kind of where this could be headed. We just, are looking for maybe some design modifications in terms of how the two buildings or how the addition would tie into the existing home. So that's where we are, but we are supportive of the idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff?
I have one question. What about lot coverage? I mean, that's
yeah.
the first initial thing that jumps out at me on this.
Yeah, you're right, Bart. So I think that would need to be a design or a development standard modification as well. I can't remember the percentage of lot coverage, of rear yard lot coverage that's needed, but that definitely would be, a modification that would need to be approved.
But I don't think that that's something that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think our board can comment on that. It's a city code that the Jim would have to go for a variance for something like that, correct?
I'm looking right now at the code development standards for in the East Franklinton section of the code, and it says minimum rear yard 0 feet, but these are just setbacks. I'm not seeing a percentage for lot coverage. I think that might be in the general design standards that's outside of the East Franklinton code, but the board can actually still modify those standards. The only thing that the board can't modify are engineering standards, so like the size of a parking space or the width of a drive aisle, things like that.
hear from the applicant?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
let's bring the applicant in.
There you go. Got it.
Identify yourself, please. Jim Sweeney, there you are. Mr. Sweeney, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes. Yeah. Here.
Okay, thank you. The floor is yours and the architects can have at you. Go ahead.
Well, the reason I'm here is so that the architects can have at me. I know you guys want to weigh in on things like this, as do I. It's a concept that I think makes a lot of sense for the neighborhood. I look at the greater issue of the need for density, the need for sort of outbuilding uses in the time of COVID. I also look at the need for smaller units make themselves more naturally market driven as affordable. These are going to be small spaces that will drive the rents down. I think it's a good fit for the logic of East Franklinton Code or East Franklinton Plan. And I'm here to get your feedback. I'm not ready to pull the trigger, obviously. I understand the process, and I think that the board could add a lot of value to the idea. I have not gotten a builder. I don't have an architect. I don't have financing. But I intend to get all those things, and I want to make sure I'm not doing something crazy that you're going to hate.
Okay.
So I welcome your thoughts.
And with that, let them have it, guys and ladies. Board members, any questions for the applicant, comments?
I'll go ahead and kind of reiterate what Belkis said. I think I'm generally supportive of the density. I agree with your comments on the smaller units. But the application of how the building attaches, it needs to feel more seamless. It looks to me from this that the building is simply just pushed up all the way against it because of the need for space. There's no integration. Without knowing the building, it looks like almost like that back roof on the smaller portion of the existing house should somewhat be integrated into the building, whether it goes over that portion and integrates into there, because this is going to end up being one structure. There's no separation between them. And so I personally am supportive of the density, the lack of parking, the site coverage, but would need to see significant improvement in the layout and design.
Let me, before somebody else gets in, let me point out one thing. This is, I'm glad you had a light agenda today, because I don't want to feel like I'm wasting a lot of time. But, the original idea was not to attach it to the house, was to have a separate freestanding building and have some open space in between the two that I think would enhance both or all three units. I went this direction because as I understand it, building a separate parcel there would require a lot split. And I assume at that point, several other development standards would come into question. And I talked this over with Belkis. Belkis, by the way, has been extremely helpful in helping me sort this out. And I don't mind using her time or your time because I think that this is something you're going to see a lot of in the future. And I think we're getting our feet wet on this sort of additional density, this accessory use stuff. I could be a pretty good guinea pig in helping you set policy on creating these things. But get back to my original point. Yeah, it is basically crammed on the back of the house because because a 3-unit building is permitted by code. Otherwise, the other option, and frankly, I hate to say this, but I'm kind of leaning towards the other option. The more I think about it after I submitted all this to Belkis, I began thinking that it might be better to just go ahead and get the lot split and deal with the code issues on a separate building. But again, I presented to you today just to get your general feedback on the lot coverage. I agree. It's the biggest would normally be the biggest concern in this kind of thing. However, the density being what it is around here, I think this makes some sense. I just want to get your thoughts.
Well,
Yeah.
Jim, this is TJ. First, what would be the benefit of a lot split? I think that would set a bigger precedent with this back alley than putting an accessory or an addition. I mean, right now, if you tie it to your building, it's a 3-unit residential building with a parking variance. If you split your lot, that's I think a much bigger precedent that we would be splitting small residential lots, and that could inherently get us to I think open up I mean, maybe not for a bad thing, but it would definitely open up an entirely different direction with splitting small residential lots.
TJ, I'm not even sure that they can if it doesn't have street frontage. I mean, maybe the alley allows for that, even though it's abandoned, but typically a lot has to have public access.
Right. And I guess that alley is only a 10-foot, small alley there. Is there an ability for the neighbors adjacent to vacate that alley or to come together to make that I guess if it's 10 feet, that's not even wide enough to do a one-way parking on the side or anything. But a pedestrian walkway or something along those lines, because right now there's just not any good access to that. And when your doors are essentially off that alley, but that alley is not really, passable. I mean, to anybody, you show one of the units, the first floor unit is being ADA compliant, but that bathroom is certainly not an ADA compliant bathroom, and the alley is certainly not an ADA compliant alley, and there is no parking for ADA. Not that unit actually needs to be ADA, but just kind of
Sure.
If you're saying it's ADA, it's certainly, I think, has a long way to go to actually be ADA.
Well, I'll ask staff what the plans are for the alley. The property owner in the city of Columbus, I hope it's not abandoned. I want them to finish it. I want an alley.
Well, that's a whole different question, and a good question, because there's multiple alleys in Franklinton that are essentially abandoned by the city, but the city owns and is not maintaining. So, that may be a great question for Balkus for a follow-up to you is, what is the possibility of getting the city to accept ownership of an alley that they're just not maintaining?
Maybe I'm not understanding.
Abandoned.
They do own it, yes?
Yes, it has not been vacated and given to the residents. So it is
You would get half of it if it was vacated, right?
if it was vacant, yeah, you would get 5 of the 10 feet of alley.
Now, I'll also point out, if you look at the photos, you can see the lot behind mine. It's basically 3 residential lots all owned by Triad Architects, and they intend to develop that site. They plan to use that alley also, as does my neighbor next door.
Yeah, so from the planning staff side, from planning, there's not really much I could do for that alley. That would be something that, applicants could discuss with public service. But I'm not really sure what else to say beyond that. Is that's under public services purview, I guess. I could reach out and see what a contact would be for alleys. I'm not sure if there is one or what, but that's what I could do from my end. But I know that public service manages all of that. So.
Well, I can tell you, people drive in the alley, people park in the alley, people use the alley like it's an alley, even though the city hasn't maintained it. We have, and we use it like an alley. And I think it's reasonable to expect that the city will maintain the property for the residents.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's your side footage to the property line to the east? Because it looks like you're showing a walkway there to kind of stairs up and stairs down to those back doors from the front, and I think that's important to have if you've got the availability to do that.
What's that space there?
Yeah, like from the edge of your porch to Chris's house next to you.
Your property line.
Ritzy's next to me. Chris is next.
Oh, Mitzi's. Yeah, sorry. To Mitzi's next year. What to your property line? What do you have there?
You know, I don't have the dimensions. Well, actually, I do. I can pull them all up, but it's you know, it's all pretty fluid now, TJ. You know, I mean, I don't have the lot size, the unit size exactly nailed down either. I mean, I mean, if anyone wants to tell me what it should be, I'll make it that.
No, I think TJ just asking because the alley aside, your pedestrian access to the accessory unit is going to be from Walnut Street. And do you have enough? Do you have a walkway there? Do you have 3 feet? What do you have from your building to your property line for access? Right?
There's 3 feet there for sure. Yeah, there's walkway there now.
And it's not ADA steps in it, so.
No. Now the ADA.
I don't know that it needs to be.
And just, you know, just to lay everything out for you guys.
Well, maybe it does. But
I don't want to be mysterious as to my intent or even my process. Initially, the first floor was going to be a garage, and then I realized, you know, that maybe, you know, my mother requires ADA. She can't visit me here, and then maybe think how many ADA apartments do we actually have in Franklinton, and probably not that many. It's almost as much as, you know, I would like to create something unique, and the ADA accessible small unit in this neighborhood, I think, would be unique. So that's the logic in creating that. Now, it's how we get there. You know, any person accessing that ADA unit that needs ADA would necessarily have to come off the alley. They couldn't come in the front door anyway because there's steps out just to the front of the house because there's steps there. 2 steps to the sidewalk in front of the house. So they'd have to come off the back.
Jim, I think your better play on the accessory unit is to do the other scheme that you were talking about, where you go setback to setback, east to west, and basically it's not a garage, but you're building a carriage house off the back. You've got a small outdoor area that could get some light in between units. I just think your lot is probably, what, 35 feet wide is my guess?
It's 25 feet wide.
25, so...
And 32 feet between the back of the house and the lot line.
Okay, so, you know, if I split that down the middle, I don't think your unit sizes are going to be, they're not going to be deep enough. I think you'd be better served to think of it as essentially it's like a carriage house off the back, that you use that side yard as access to Walnut Street, and you could have potentially an accessible unit on the ground floor and a loftier, 1.5 level unit, a bigger unit above, that you could get the shape out of the mass of this building, but it'd be a separate building, and it would also give you much more flexibility in terms of how you lay out units, I would think.
I would agree with that,
So
right now, Bart.
This is staff. So there's the pickle with that part is that even though, so as a planning division, right, we support accessory dwelling units, but accessory dwelling units are like carriage houses, with the unit above. They're not permitted by code, and not even, in East Franklinton, they're not even listed specifically as a use. And so because of that, the board can't approve that type of use because it's not permitted. And so I kind of explained this to Jim. What I thought was it could just go from a 1-unit dwelling to a 3-unit dwelling, and he builds a separate building like a carriage house, and everyone's happy and it's fine. But that's not the case. And so for it to go from 1 unit to 3 units, it has to be attached. It can't be separated. There can't be like even a breezeway. I checked this with building and zoning staff. And so it has to be all.
Can it be attached by a foundation? Can it be attached by a foundation? So you have a terrace, which is a structure that joins the two, but so it's read from a foundation standpoint as a single a single unit.
I
I
can
don't
tell
know.
you,
It seems like there's a way around that.
Lucas, I don't know if you recall this, but what you said to me was that you spoke, I think, Christine in development or building department, and that the code actually says something about a conditioned space needs to be connected by a conditioned space. You recall that? Yeah. I never looked that up.
Yeah.
So that's what got us the connected part. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Outdoor connection.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's
Jim, I'm
the
intrigued by
problem.
your.
And so what building and zoning staff said is the only way for, you know, an applicant, someone to build a separate dwelling unit would be to do a lot split. But I don't know the ins and outs of lot splits. You know, that's in the building and zoning department. So Jim would have to apply with them and get that approved and then come to East Franklinton with the design and all of that. But it sounds like a lot split may not be workable since there isn't frontage along the main right of way. I don't know. So that's the pickle that we're trying to work through.
Yeah,
I think you could
or
lot split it and have a basically a flag-shaped site that includes that access from Walnut Street to the rear lot.
I think that's under 3 feet. I think it's 2.6 or 7 feet to the property line. I mean,
Yeah.
according to the auditor.
Well, flag
But
might work then.
you'd have to be able to get the water from the front. I don't think there's water in the alley. I think there's a lot. I think I think the better bet is to do it just like I think you're kind of doing it, and there's been some recommendations to do it to like more of a carriage house style. But it sounds like we're kind of all in favor for the idea. The execution right now, I think, would need to tie more into the existing building.
Question is, one question is the alley considered a public right of way? I can't build on it. I mean, instead of having frontage on, I think the language probably is having frontage on a road, but having frontage on a public right of way. The alley may qualify.
Elsewhere in the city, there are parcels that have been split that have alley access. Certainly, I mean, German Village and Italian Village have houses on alleys.
Yeah, and I mean that's where you could talk to building and zoning, Jim, to the lot split folks and explain, you know, your site and what you'd like to do and see what the requirements are for that.
Will do.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you some of the stuff that you'll probably run into is, you know, they use whatever it fronts on for an address. And if it's inaccessible, when whatever address fire department would go to, I think if it was a functioning alley, having an address on there is fine, but it's on, as TJ brought up, on where you get your utilities from, where fire would access, how that's going to be some of the issues that will be brought up.
That's true.
Yeah, I could sewer goes out the back, water goes out the front, meaning water comes off Walnut.
Right.
That is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So Jim, I'm intrigued the basement egress coming into a room into this new addition, and how you kept the Bilko door. I thought that was novel. I don't even know.
There's nothing I can do about that.
Is that legal to have egress into another space? And then, I don't know, that all looks kind of weird. I would have just notched out that space. You could have just notched it out and left it exterior. And so the access was coming to an exterior space, and the unit on the ground floor is L-shaped, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could do that, I guess.
Saves the money.
Would I?
Yeah, definitely. Wall construction.
Well, it'll make it easier to go to the basement during the rain that way, anyway.
Kim just saved you 2 walls worth of construction.
It all adds up.
Oh, look at that kid. Yeah, I designed this. I've not spent any money on anybody. You know how expensive architects are, don't you?
And another comment about the tree is existing, right?
Yeah,
So
I'm not gonna plant it.
Let's place bets if that tree's saved. Kim, what do you say?
well, just remember when you limit up to the roof of the second story, you may not have any like vegetation.
Well, I get the fingers crossed on the tree. I hear if when I put the foundation in, I'm likely to kill the tree anyway, so it might need.
Likely so, yeah.
It's a blue spruce. It poisons everything around it. It's acidic needles are everywhere.
Looks really cool in 3D rendering, though.
You could replace it with a decorative cell tower.
and make money. Another cost savings.
I thought it was a decorative awning at first until I got to the very bottom and saw the actual blue spruce in the photo.
SketchUp, I couldn't find a tree in SketchUp for free, so I didn't.
So, okay, so this is Belkis. So I'm hearing that it seems like the board is on board with the idea, but again, there needs to be maybe some additional research on the applicant's part on, you know, what's feasible with a lot split or even what's feasible with like redesigning how the two buildings are connected or integrated. Is that what I'm hearing?
I heard.
What it sounds like.
Okay. Okay. Well, are there any other final comments? I feel like we've addressed lot split, alley access, how the two buildings are connected, the tree, parking. Anything else that we haven't touched on outside of those themes?
Yeah, Jim, I'll just leave it to you. Do you have any more things that you want to hear about at this point?
No, not really. Bill, I appreciate your time, and yeah, I'm just looking. I want to engage the board in the discussion, and I think things work much better instead of like throwing something at you down the road that you're not going to be expecting. So I don't really have any particular requests or ideas. This is going to evolve a little bit, and I'm
Sure.
hoping that you'll be as generous with your time as you were today going forward, so we can get the best thing for me and for the neighborhood and just for Columbus in general. It'd be nice to create a model here that we can replicate.
Well, Jim, I think you're on to something, and I think that with the unnamed alley and that lack of use on the alley, there's really kind of something neat and special that could be done with that alley if you and the neighbors kind of band together and or get with the city and have something done there. It's obviously an easement. There's a sewer there, so they'll have to be able to access it. You're not going to be able to build anything on it. There's electric that runs through there as well, I believe. So, but you could certainly do something really neat back there that would, you know, if you could get the neighbors to agree on it and or, you know, the future project that is kind of adjacent to the north, there could be something really neat to tie in units on a pedestrian walkable alley, or, you know, something neat right there could be really cool in an underutilized alley that's back there currently.
That's actually a super cool idea, TJ. Again, I didn't see it when you said it the first time, but I could see it now. That would be a neat thing for Franklinton to have, like take advantage of these like almost these small alleys and convert them to walkable sort of, you know, discoverable places.
Yeah.
And yours being one of the shortest ones, it could be the prototype for so many of these that exist in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's just 4 of us here. I mean, there's only 4 houses that could use it. I mean, I'm sure Triad might have something to say about it, since, you know, they look.
Well, you know, that would, if I was you, that's a good starting point for a conversation with them about possibly designing this and incorporating that alley into something they're doing and something you're doing, and it could be a really neat, really kind of a special spot.
I wanted to add a kind of dimension to this conversation. Belkis forwarded us a letter from somebody in the community, in the East Franklinton community, suggesting that the board should be helping about affordable housing in the neighborhood. And I think this is a great, the ability to build some of these smaller units that might actually help with that issue. And I think our support of density and smaller, more affordable units might be a real direction for the board to take in the future.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Anyone else?
Wonderful.
Assuming it's not going to be Airbnb'd for $200 a night.
Jim said affordable housing, right? This was housing.
We'll see. All right. That's
Okay.
it. Any more for me?
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
Thanks,
All
Jim.
right.
Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you,
Thanks
Jim.
for bringing it into us and having us kind of talk about it. I think it's a refreshing and fun step to be kind of a part of it early instead of having you go through all the steps and then bring it to us and something egregious not work and you have to go back to the drawing board.
Why would I not want to use all the talent for free right here on this board, right? As long as
Oh man, stop it. Stop it.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Okay, unless anybody on this board have anything further to add, if not, we've reached adjournment and we will.
Kim, did you want to say anything about the letter that Belkis sent out to us last week or last month after our meeting? I responded to Belkis kind of individually about that. I didn't know if anybody else did or if anybody else had.
I did too. And again, those are issues that are kind of purview. And I think that's a point, but we can approve projects like this that might actually help to get to some of those issues where we're upping the density, and hopefully that by doing that, we introduce more affordable units into the neighborhood.
Yeah, I kind of took exception to a couple of the things because exactly to your point, I don't think they were necessarily in our purview. And two, these are public meetings where anybody is able to come and say their piece.
I said the exact same. I don't want to put words in Belkis's mouth, but he did respond to the person and kind of, I think, reiterated some of those sentiments.
Yeah.
So for the public to kind of, for us to state publicly during this meeting, I would hope that anybody feels comfortable coming and sharing any concerns they have with us in person, over Skype, and via our web meetings until they're held in person. But I think it's great feedback to have. I wish we could get it in person as opposed to via the staff. So
this is a public process, right? Everybody, that's why this meeting is live, right? So everybody can hear it. So yeah, I agree totally.
And
I have
also
something I'd like to
share,
bring up if I could. Hello?
Of course.
Along this business of affordable housing, I need some help just finding some resources. It's not so relevant to East Franklinton, but since we brought it up, I have a double lot that I'm willing to build efficiency apartments on. I can do them and do them at affordable prices, but I don't know where to begin to find a builder. I was a builder for years and I understand the way the game is played. I would need somebody willing and able to work with me to build this and not try and make $1 million because I'm not going to gold plate it. And I'm quite willing to do it in the winter. I've started construction in the winter before. I just throw that out if anyone knows anyone who wants to do a good deed and help me get this building done. I do 7 units plus a laundromat. And the rent's going to be $500 to $600. Assuming what it's going to cost, what I think it's going to cost. If it's out of the ballpark, then obviously I can't afford to do it. That's it. I'll do cash too, by the way. I don't need finance.
Okay.
I'm done.
All right.
Okay. Anyone else? I don't want to cut anyone off here.
See you next time.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you, everyone. I appreciate your time.
Okay, we are I'll say it officially, we are adjourned.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.